After a forgettable first part of the Kieran McKenna former club double-header, his townside travels to Old Trafford, hoping to make more trouble for a new manager and a new owner. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Welcome back to a mini pre-match show. We are going to ignore Saturday. I might not even say the T word or the S word. In fact, they don't want us to use the T word, do they? So we will maybe refer to it as it pertains to Man United on Wednesday. That's what we're here to talk about. Apologies in advance, Seb. I've got my walkout jacket on. I'm going to rustle on the microphone, but I thought I'd show it off. Spent some team card points. Man United, it's not a place, we'll talk about the head-to-head record where I have no fond memories, frankly, of following Ipswich Town over the years. But if Spurs, it was about, I've done it, I failed straight away. If it was a bad time to play them lot on Saturday, is it a good time to be playing Man United?
It's definitely a better time to be playing Man United than it was to be playing Spurs with their players coming back. We'll discuss the last time out, had they lost at Goodison Park at the weekend, like was looking pretty likely at half-time and very likely when that 90th minute penalty was originally awarded, it would be an even better time. But they showed a bit of fight back and a bit of character in the second half. But this is, we sat here it was November, wasn't it, when Ruben Amorim came in, and first game against us, it became the biggest football game in the world that week. The eyes of the world descended on Portman Road. We gave a really good account of ourselves, and I think you and me sat here at the time, and I think I probably said, I think they'll get top four now because they weren't that far off it. And what's preceded over the last 3 months has been pretty disastrous. We'll discuss the form, we'll discuss how it's all gone, but yeah, it's a real mess on and off the pitch, isn't it? And it still sounds crazy talking about it because you and me grew up in we got into football in the 90s and the 2000s, and it's Man United winning everything, Alex Ferguson, the class of 92, etc. And it still feels just weird doing the research today, looking at the league table and seeing them where they are. It's hard to get your head round when they had such a huge dynasty growing up. It's really weird. And
the thing, and we can speak from experience here, when football clubs are run like corporate businesses and decisions are made about whether to spend money on certain things or to permit staff to have certain perks or benefits, and you start stripping that stuff away, you take away the heart and soul of a football club and an establishment and its importance to the community. And from the outside, this takeover has just kind of sped up what we've seen under the previous owners, or they're still involved, aren't they? Partially, I think I don't think they have day-to-day responsibility as much anymore, but we've had it under Marcus Evans, and you can now, it's strange to see it play out such a big stage, such a big platform as Manchester United, but it looks really bleak there, doesn't it, behind the scenes? And that can't help the on-field situation either.
And that stuff will translate to the pitch, like you say. It will affect the on-field stuff. They've had 20 years of the Glazers, the takeover, and, Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming in. It was nearly just over 12 months ago. It was ratified, wasn't it? It was announced on Christmas Eve, 2023, some date in February 2024. And I guess if you're a Man United fan, suddenly, local lad buys into the club. He's given carte blanche over the footballing operations side of the business. The Glazers still retain the larger kind of percentage share and the commercial side of it, but he was instructed to do what you want with the footballing side. And you're probably thinking, yes, here we go, finally. And from the start, they make all the right noises. We need a CEO. Well, let's go and get Man City's the best in class. We need a director of football. Well, Dash was pretty good. Let's go and spend a load of money to get him in. Jason Wilcox as a technical director. He kind of went out and did all the right things. And then since then, it seems to have just been, wrong decision after wrong decision. We're recording this on Monday evening, and the announcement today is a load more redundancies to follow the redundancies made last year and cutbacks on staff perks. And yeah, it just seems to be a real mess, and probably not what they were expecting when, a local lad done good, so to speak, was able to invest a lot of money into the club. It's a complete mess, isn't it? The whole thing just needs a complete reset. And I guess if you'd have said to them 12 months ago, new ownership coming in, new manager, exciting manager coming in, you'd probably be thinking, right, here we go. Man United can start to show some some green shoots of recovery, as Marcus Evans once said to us. But it's just getting worse. If anything, it's just not got going at all. And you do wonder where this club goes from here, because you hear some of the debt numbers, the Athletic reporting they owe out 300 million quid in transfer fees, and you're suddenly thinking, well, they can't spend their way out of it to a large degree. So what are they going to do? Because Amorim is struggling to get a tune out of the players that he's already got. He's not improving them. He can't buy his way out of them. Where do they go from here?
Yeah, and it's not as if you can wait for a game changer type takeover, because Man United are a multi-million, if not billion-pound venture, aren't they? So, yeah, it's interesting watching them from afar, seeing the mistakes that we know close hands play out there. Let's talk about on the field, though, Seb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not great, is it?
It's 15th. It's crazy. Man United are 15th with 30 points. They are 13 points off the Europa Conference League spot, and they are 14 points off the Champions League places. Played 26 games, only won 8 games in the last week of February. Drawn 6, lost 12, scored 30 goals. They're averaging just over 1 goal per game, conceded 37, a -7 goal difference. They are the 5th lowest scorers in the division. They've conceded first in 20 of their 40 games in all competitions so far this season, and they come into it, like you just said, on a pretty poor run of form. The last 5 is 1 victory against Fulham, 1 draw last time out against Everton, and then 3 defeats: Spurs, Crystal Palace and Brighton. And gone are the days where United would just swat mid to lower Premier League sides away effortlessly, especially at Old Trafford. We're in a world now where Brighton, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, these sides are going to United and not just winning 1-0. Palace won 2-0, Brighton won 3-0. I think Bournemouth won 3-0 as well. They are getting turned over in their own backyards by clubs that they used to just swat aside effortlessly. And yeah, the whole season is a complete disaster. As I said back in November, I thought they would get top 4. I thought they would turn it round. I thought they'd kind of go through a bit of short-term pain, but eventually kind of get it right. And it's just got so much worse. And I don't think any of them would have predicted that. And the Old Trafford form, the home form, is absolutely killing them. They're 14th in the home form table with 16 points. Played 13 at Old Trafford, won 5, only drawn 1, lost 7 games, scored 17 goals. So again, just over 1 goal per game in the home performances, conceded 22. The last 5 games at home is 1 win, Southampton. And if I remember rightly, I think we were doing a live reaction show at the time to something, me and Mikey. I think it was an Amad Diallo very late winner in that game to get them the points there. And 4 defeats, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Newcastle and Bournemouth. So yeah, the home form is awful. And I guess you have to wonder, they are quite a notoriously loyal fan base, Man United fans. It's not like some grounds you go to where things turn toxic very quickly. They do kind of give managers chances, etc. But at some point, surely all this will come to a head, and they will start to be more vocal from the stands. It's just, yeah, it's going incredibly poorly.
Haven't they? About the ownership at the very least.
Yeah, they also done stuff about the Glazers, etc. But it's a club that does stand by managers, isn't it? Even when Moyes was there, they weren't known for kind of calling from the stands. We want him sacked, etc. They do give managers a lot of time, and
give it gigs the end of the season. Do you remember that
wasn't a Man United fan, I don't think. You just wonder what what has to happen for that tipping point to be reached, because the on-field performances are dreadful, aren't they?
Yeah, we'll talk specifically about Everton in a bit, because I guess there's some, I was going to say the green shoots there, it's probably overstating it, but at least there's some circumstances where they were 2-0 down and came back, albeit probably thanks to Bruno Fernandes in part, I think, for that one. The one that jumps out, the Crystal Palace home defeat, it's so bizarre to see a Man United team cut open like they did for the second goal, side foot cross to an unmarked Mateta to slam home from the far post, completely unmarked. Just bizarre to see Man United teams defending like that. And we'll talk maybe about the system later on and how Amorim has kind of set them up, and maybe some of his tactical inflexibility, shall we say. We're talking about Ange in that respect, but probably even more so for Amorim, who, let's be honest, we knew his brand before he came to the league, and it's his plan A and plan A only at the moment, isn't it? Should we talk about the Everton game, Seb? Because the goals conceded were lousy, weren't they? But to their credit, largely thanks to VAR, perhaps, got a point.
Yeah, so 2-2 draw. It was the Saturday lunchtime kickoff. We were sat in the Greyhound, weren't we, kind of following it. 2-0 down at half-time. Like you say, awful defending for both. They can't clear their lines from a corner for the first one. Harry Maguire completely switches off and Beto's behind him and kind of stabs the ball home. And the second one, the space in behind the back three is crazy. It's a ball down the channel. I think it's Beto who makes the run. He kind of squares it inside for Jack Harrison, who gets a shot off. And Onana just kind of pushes it up and back into the danger zone. And Harry Maguire again is kind of caught ball watching as who's it, Decore, isn't it, runs in and nods the ball home. And yeah, really, really awful defending. But they do show a little bit of fight in the second half. Bruno Fernandes, you kind of wonder where they would be without Bruno Fernandes. You know, he's the one kind of shining light of a player in this squad. It's a great free kick on 72, and then Manuel Ugarte gets like a volley into the area after they can't clear their lines from a corner. Everton can't clear their lines, rescued a point, and then the big controversy in the last minute. You know, Ashley Young goes down very theatrically. The referee gives a penalty for the foul by Maguire, who's got his hand on his waist.
He's pulling his shirt.
Well, that's the lit though, isn't it? That's the wrong one. That's the whole issue, isn't it? Maguire, the referee gives it for the foul by Maguire. He goes to the monitor to have a look. They show him the angle where Maguire doesn't make much contact, and for some weird reason, they completely missed the shirt pulled by De Ligt that for me was enough to give a penalty. So a really weird. So they get out of jail there. The stats weren't obviously in their favour. 0.41 xG to Everton's 1.91. 9 shots, 3 on target, and then really weird. Did you hear Amorim at full time? Really weird post-match quotes. He says, we didn't exist in the first half. Everything we did during the week, I think the free man was there. I think the space was there. I think the loose balls we cannot lose. In the second half, I said to them, no matter what, we are going to do what we did during the week. He's almost making out like the players didn't follow his game plan and his tactical setup for that first half. And then in the second half, after he got them in at half time, they did start to follow it. So that to me does scream a little bit of a squad, you know, who maybe have either lost faith maybe in the manager and his methods because he's not been able to turn them around, or it's players that maybe have one eye kind of elsewhere because they know they might well be moved on in the summer. But whichever way you want to look at it, it's not a happy home life, is it, to get one of our office quotes in there.
Yeah, and you kind of, you look at Marcus Rashford's situation, don't you? We've saw him at close quarters a couple of weeks ago and was very, had been very highly criticised, hasn't he, by Amorim, and maybe rightly so in respect of what Amorim has in mind for his role, particularly the high press. I think that was a lot of the criticism. Then you see him at Villa, and he's now creating goals and got, has he 3 assists in 2 matches? Is it maybe
2 assists for Asensio, and he hit the bar for Ollie Watkins follow up, didn't he? So yeah, on a time they're really struggling for goals, you kind of see him. They've loaned out him, they've loaned out Ante, they've loaned out Jadon Sancho, and I guess part of that is to reduce the wage bill. But if a player like Rashford is getting 3 assists in 2 games and United are struggling, it just makes the decision making look even worse.
It does. What are the stats for Amorim, just to ram home the point?
So in the league, 15 games, won 4, drawn 3, lost 8, 1 point per game, which is relegation form, a 27% win rate. They've only scored 18 goals in his 15 league games under his management, and they've conceded 25 goals in those 15 games. And look, he gets a free pass this season. I mean, no one would have expected it to go this badly. But at what point, like I said earlier, are they going to start to think, have we got the right person here? He's completely wedded to his tactical setup, which we'll discuss shortly. But if they stumble through, what we've got left now, 12 games, if they keep going at a rate of 1 point per game, nobody's going to be going into the pre-season and the transfer window with any kind of real hope. I think he deserves a pre-season. He was quite vocal about the fact that he would have rather join in the summer, see out the season with Sporting Lisbon, come in the summer, because he knew that his methods that he wanted to instill on this squad required time and required a full pre-season. So he will get that. I certainly don't see them firing him or anything before that, but you do wonder, given the complete drop-off in performance. It's like when Paul Cook came in, isn't it? A manager comes in, cannot get a tune out of the players, and even after a pre-season in the summer, you start the next season in a really poor vein of form, and that's when the pressure really ramps up, I think.
I guess the difference there, Paul Cook had 17 players brought for him in the summer. Amorim has inherited, as we talked about, a bit of a Frankenstein's monster in terms of 2 or 3, even 4 managers worth of recruitment, players on very high wages who haven't really contributed what you'd expect for them. So there is some mitigating circumstances there, but and I think we talked about on the kind of home game pre-match show, they've probably gone for Amorim whilst he's kind of a very highly desired coach to fend off potential other suitors. But if you can't bring a manager in and trust him to work with what he's got for 6 months, 7 months of the season, it's a massive gamble. And at the moment, it doesn't look to be paying off. But the good thing for Ruben Amorim is along come Ipswich and our pretty lousy head-to-head record, Seb.
Yeah, so it's one where, unsurprisingly, United have got the edge. 19 wins for us, 10 draws between the two, and 29 wins for United. The last couple of times we went there in the Premier League, there was a 4-0 defeat. I was at this one. Did you go to this one?
That one? Yeah,
yeah, 4-0 defeat
straight
in September.
after Torpedo Moscow?
Yes, I think it was.
On the Saturday. They made us play it on the Saturday, not the Sunday.
Yeah, 4-0 defeat, September 2001. Ronnie Johnson, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Andy Cole. 2 goals were after the 90 minutes, though. I think they scored twice in the first 15 or 20, and then nothing happened really until the injury time. The previous year, the year we finished 5th, was a 2-0 defeat just before Christmas. Solskjaer got a double. Obviously, we've been there more recently. We all went there loads of us went there for the 3-0 League Cup defeat in September 2015, where Mick rested all the first teamers and played the likes of, was it Josh Yeoworth and
Peter Malarchik
up against Wayne Rooney
Tommy Orr
and the like. 3-0 defeat there that night. Our last victory was at Old Trafford in May 1984, and pushing towards the Flagship, an absolutely outstanding stat from Dave. That was May 1984 was the last time Man United were winning a game at half time and ended up losing it. It's something like over 300 games since then. They've never done that again, so that's an incredibly impressive stat.
To an Ipswich team, you forgot that little bit on the end of it. Yes, to Ipswich.
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
And we've kind of reflected on some enjoyable moments so far this season. The 1-0 draw at Portman Road was pretty fair scoreline in the end, wasn't it? One of our better days out.
I thought we shaded it. I thought we deserved to win it personally. Don't forget those 2 big saves from Onana. The one in the first half where he's backwards, isn't he? Alex Palmer-esque, and kind of tips it round. And I think, was it a header from Delap in the second half? So obviously Rashford scored after, was it 30 seconds, 40 seconds or something? Yeah, straight down the line, wasn't it, by Diallo? Cut inside, and then Muric kind of starts to come and doesn't, and then Rashford nips in and scores, and you're thinking, the Ruben Amorim era is up and running. But we fought back really well that night, I thought, and Murray Hutchinson equalises with that deflected effort from outside the box, and I thought we were really good value for a point. And I think quite a lot of the pundits afterwards were giving us our dues and saying we shaded it. And it's probably one of those, a bit like Villa at home, a bit like Fulham at home. You do kind of look back and think that's probably drop points there that might come to bite us at the end of the year.
Yeah, we talked about Marcus Rashford and his departure. You mentioned Anthony as well. I may be surprised, Seb, at the lack of business in January.
It's the money, though. They're really struggling with PSR. They've got real issues around it, so they can't really go out and afford to spend that much. Like I said earlier, the Athletic are reporting they owe 300 million quid out in transfer debt. This is a completely separate debt to their overall kind of club debt, and 168 million of that is due in the next 12 months. So they need to be very careful given their PSR kind of headroom, what they can do. But they have gone out and bought somebody. They bought Patrick Dorgu, who's a left back. We know Amorim loves his wing backs, and that's where they are really struggling to kind of get these full backs or attacking wingers, what they were previously, transitioning to these new roles. So he's gone out and spent a little bit of money on a left wing back. He's come in for £25 million from Lecce. Other than that, it looks like it was a bit of squad tidying up on loans to reduce the wage bill. Rashford gone to Villa. We've discussed him at length. Anthony, 105 million quid. What was that meant to be in the end? He's gone on loan to Real Betis, doing quite well by all accounts, but did get sent off this weekend. And the reserve left back Tyrell Malacia has gone on loan to PSV. So a little bit of squad tidying, reduce the wage bill a little bit. And I guess if they're all on loans, they can take stock in the summer, see where they are, and look to make some decisions then. Yeah,
some injuries at left back too, which we'll talk about. Luke Shaw, I think, came off the bench, didn't he, in the game against us, and I think has had another setback, so we'll talk more about that. Do you want to deal with the 3-4-3 system now, Seb? Should we get the Monday night football?
Bring up the tactical pad. So no surprising. I mean, every time you hear a United article or hear an interview with Ruben Amorim, the 3-4-3 comes up. He's completely wedded to this system. He's played a 3 at the back system every single game he's been in charge. It's either a 3-4-3 or kind of this 3-4-2-1 like you see on the screen here, which isn't that too dissimilar from what McKenna kind of brought in when he first joined. If you remember, kind of Selena and Norwood would kind of tuck in a little bit behind Macaulay Bonne, and Janoi Dynasty would be that right-sided kind of centre-back role. It's not that different from that. So this was the starting 11 away at Goodison Park on Saturday morning. Very clear. You kind of got your defensive shield of Casemiro and Ugarte in front of the back three, Dalot in the right wing back, Dorgu, the new signing, left wing back, and then they have got an injury crisis. So you've got Bruno Fernandes in his normal role as an attacking midfielder, and they're kind of shoehorning in Joshua Zirkzee, who is a striker by trade. He's having to drop a little bit deep because they've got a lot of players out injured. Rasmus Højlund, who I'll talk about shortly, was the main striker. If we then advance it to our usual spot where we go to the average player positions, it kind of still resembles a half decent kind of 3-4-3 formation. It's a bit weird how you've got Zirkzee, Højlund and Fernandes all really close to each other, just kind of the into the opposition half. Dorgu pushes up quite wide and quite attacking. Casemiro and Ugarte there, that central midfield. I was watching a game, I can't remember which one it was, but Gary Neville was saying the United midfield, you could basically drive a tank through there because the two players were so far apart, and that is shown again in this kind of graphic here. The back three stay in a kind of decent shape, and Dalot kind of pushes up, but not as far as the left wing back. And then if you go to where the players took the most touches, it goes a little bit crazy. So as you can see from this, Casemiro kind of sits with Harry Maguire as kind of the kind of central defensive options. Yeah. Look at De Ligt. You can see how that goal came about. Everton's second goal was a long ball down that channel, wasn't it, that Beto kind of ran onto.
Same for Palace down that side too, Sam.
Yeah, and squared in the middle. So they have got issues with the left back pushing, so the left wing back pushing so far forward. Ugarte kind of comes out wide. Mazwari kind of moves out to the right-hand side to link up with Dalot. Ugarte kind of goes out there to create, I don't know, it's not an overload because it's not an attacking position, but for whatever reason, they take the most touches there to try and maybe look to create something from deep. Højlund does push up. Fernandes, Alan Judge heat map kind of clacks him. I refer to that every now and again. He will go everywhere to pick the ball up and try and get involved. And Patrick Dorgu is the most advanced player. The left wing back is the most advanced player there. So you can kind of see the structure in obviously the initial formation. You can kind of see remnants of it in the average player positions, but where they touch the ball seems to me to be a little bit all over the place. There are huge gaps of space in behind Matthijs de Ligt because there's no cover from the fullback, and there are huge gaps of space in kind of the Everton left back, left wing area of the pitch because the United right-hand side does drop really, really deep. So really strange, and probably explains why they keep getting themselves in such a mess kind of, defensively and offensively, because it looks to me to be a bit of a cluster mess.
Well censored.
Oh yeah, I saved it there. Yeah.
Apologies for those listening on podcast. This is why when you come and join us on YouTube, we might clip this up and share it. Can you take a step back on the graphics, Seb, just to the middle one? Because an observation. Harry Maguire, very one-paced, isn't he? He's kind of at the stage of his career where the first yard has to be in his head. I look at Harry Maguire and think he's massively exposed there. And that was certainly a factor in this Palace second goal. I can't get over it, how open United were. They bombed on, as you say, but Maguire is the last line of defence. I can understand why Casemiro is kind of dropping in to help him on the basis of the last image he showed there. But there is, Casemiro isn't blessed with great pace either. So that middle of the park, those balls in behind that we know Liam Delap has thrived on, or maybe even Amari Hutchinson. We'll talk about how McKenna approaches this one. That does give me some hope there, but we have to be on it, don't we, to take advantage of it. Any other bits and pieces of stats or anything you want to draw attention to before we talk about
just that they are incredibly struggling offensively. I mentioned at the start they were the fifth lowest scorers. They're only averaging kind of just over 1 goal per game. And if you look at just the offensive numbers, they're 15th for goals scored. They are 13th for chances created this season, 13th for XG, 13th for shots on target, 10th for touches in the opposition box. And they are really struggling without this kind of crucial striker. Rasmus Højlund plays as that number 9. I think he came on in the
target man, though, isn't he?
Road game. Yeah, I mean, he had 12 touches against Everton, to give you an idea of how kind of ineffectual he was. And I guess when you're at Sporting Lisbon and you've got Victor Gyökeres kind of, doing the business for you week in, week out, the system can flourish. But without that, it does kind of fall apart very quickly. So they're not great for pressing, mid-table for pressing intensity. They're third highest for attacks down the left. We just kind of saw in the average player positions how Zirkzee, Bruno, Dorgu all kind of pulled left a little bit. But the big takeaway from the tactics side of thing is they have real problems offensively.
And the standout player, as we mentioned, Fernandes, just gets everywhere, doesn't he? And has to probably. He's probably dragging him up the table to an extent, isn't he, with his goals and assists.
Yeah, you think where would they be without him? 6 goals and 6 assists, 77 touches per game. He's created 55 chances, which is 16 more than the next highest United player. He is kind of the one shining light amongst all the fit players.
Set piece taker as well.
Scored the free kick against Everton to get them back into the game. He's the captain, does like to lead by example. I quite like him. I know a lot of people don't because of the kind of theatrics and the mouthing off to the referee, but by all accounts, I think McKenna said in the past, he's a really good guy on and off the pitch, isn't he? So I don't mind him, and he must be looking around thinking, what am I having to kind of look after here? Alejandro Garnacho might well come back into the side. He impressed off the bench in the second half against Everton. 3 goals and 1 assist so far this season.
Could have had a hat-trick against Spurs though.
He should have done and missed that really easy chance. Well, not easy chance, did he? I'm a 40-year-old sat here telling a Premier League player about missing a really easy chance. But you know what I mean. Christian Eriksen could come in to replace Casemiro and partner Manuel Ugarte in the centre of midfield. Casemiro, obviously, he's lots of rumours about his legs having gone. It's a quick turnaround time from the weekend, so don't be surprised if he drops out. Harry Maguire, Matthias de Ligt and Lenny Yoro are likely to be the back 3. Yenny Loro is fairly rapid, but Maguire and de Ligt are definitely susceptible to pace. And Andre Onana, who had the game of his life at Portman Road, seemed then to become rubbish every single week since then. 7 clean sheets so far this season, a 65% save rate, and is 0.5 in the goals prevented stats. And we were talking in the green room beforehand, weren't we? And you were saying that just shoot and follow up chances because he's got a real habit of just pushing the ball back into dangerous areas. So you have to be Johnny on the spot to take advantage.
The centre backs aren't going to be quick to recover pace either. So yeah, follow in on every shot would be my advice. If you're listening, Liam or George or Omari,
on the coach up to Manchester, if you're listening.
We're giving out strikers advice here. This is what it's all about in the pre-match show. We talked about the injuries, the absentees. A big one, Seb, Amad Diallo, not least for your FPL team.
Yeah, annoying that because I'll just beat you by 200 points now, not 300, because he's out for the rest of the season. Signed a new contract. Him and Bruno Fernandes were the 2 shining lights. He kind of really took to this wing-back role or attacking midfielder role really well under Amorim. It was him that kind of ran down the line and crossed the ball for Rashford in the Portman Road game. I think he had 6 goals and 6 assists, same as numbers as Bruno Fernandes, but he's out for the rest of the season. Luke Shaw is perennially injured. Johnny Evans is out. Lissandro Martinez has done his ACL. Mason Mount, Kobbie Mainoo.
Started a match, didn't he, and was subbed within 15 minutes or so. I'm trying to remember, brutal, isn't it, for him? But
back out again for a prolonged period of time. I mean, they spent 70 million quid, and let's not forget, I know it's not his fault, you don't wish injuries on any player, but they have a lot of key personnel missing. Nusa Mazawari kind of went off against Everton in the 70th minute and then reported a knee injury. That's why I'm thinking that Lenny Yoro might well come in and start. So they've got an awful lot of players out, which is why they're having to make do with the likes of Joshua Zirkzee, who was a striker and signed as a striker. Okay, he's not been great by the standards of the Premier League, but he's having to fill in an attacking midfield role because it's a very lengthy injury list.
Interesting stuff. We will come back after this to talk about how Ipswich Town might line up and face the challenge of Old Trafford on a Wednesday night.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells, thank you to One Stop Badges, and also to our pre-match partner, Brett Vale. We're going to skip over the FPL feature just to save some face for me. We'll delay the inevitable. Gloating by Seb, that's how I would describe it. And the bants in the chat, thank goodness for that. Do join us this week on Blue Monday. Plenty going on. If it turns out that Wednesday is a pretty enjoyable experience for the away support, you might find a live reaction show happening straight after the full-time whistle with Mikey and Dave. So if you're stuck in the car park or heading back from Manchester, or if you're unable to get to the game and looking for something to fill the rest of your evening, then do join the guys. If it is a little bit less enjoyable, then we might do something on Thursday and kind of combine it with a Forest preview too. I think the normal pre-match routine for Nottingham Forest in the Cup I think we'll abandon that one this week because it's Monday and we can't really call it. And Seb and I think, would quite like a week off as well.
And we've got Forest in 2 weeks' time, so tune in for the real Forest pre-match in 2 weeks' time.
That's the real quiz. But in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this, please give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. A thumbs up on YouTube, very much appreciated too. And always you can subscribe, and then Blue Monday content lands whenever it may appear in your feed. The Telegram group available to you as well, 365, 24/7. And then, we'll let you know what's going on with the flagship and all that kind of stuff. A little bit jiggery pokery in the running order this week because of Forest being on a Monday night. Ben may or may not do a live watch along as well on Monday, so we'll keep you posted about that as well. What changes are you expecting after Saturday, Seb? Probably the main one is a return to Manchester for Axel Tuanzebe, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. He'll come straight back into that right-sided centre-back role. I thought Wolfie did fine when he came on, and O'Shea shifted across. Ben Godfrey obviously did struggle in that first half against Son. So Tuanzebe comes straight back in. I expect it to then to be O'Shea and Greaves as the centre-halves. I'd like to have a quick conversation with you about left-back, about Leif Davis versus Connor Townsend. I don't blame Davis for the first one, but I think he's kind of not paying attention for the second one, where Johnson has a bit of space to side foot home. And if he's not contributing offensively, is it too much to carry defensively? And is Connor Townsend, who looks a lot more solid defensively, is he potentially a bit like, how we see Ben Johnson come in for these away games to tighten up on the right? Is it a similar conundrum on the left? Do we need to start looking at Townsend on the left just to make us a little bit more solid down that side? What's your thoughts? Am I being harsh or? No,
it's an interesting thought. Do I need to apologise to Brennan Johnson and the Johnson family, by the way?
It's your fault.
For my comments pre-match about I was only joking, Brennan. Come on,
footballing,
chill out, mate. But
were you the guy who shushed? Was it you?
It might have been.
Yeah,
but yeah, I see some logic in it, and I do think quite a few people put in the chat for the flagship show how disappointed they were that we kind of shifted quite a lot away from the Villa team that seemed to do so well defensively. Obviously, with 10 men for a half a game, I managed to keep them largely at bay. Obviously, Alex Palmer had to contribute a large proportion to that, but I do wonder whether both Townsend or Johnson, as in Ben Johnson, might come in for this one. You've got a predicted lineup. Should we put it up on the screen and we can talk through it for those listening on podcast? No surprises. You've already kind of listed the right-hand side of your back four. But yeah, Townsend, you're going for Townsend, yep.
I am, yeah. I just think we need to tighten up a little bit down that side, and he offers more defensive protection, which we might need in these away games. Central midfield, so we're recording this on Monday night. McKenna's done the pre-match presser today, where it turns out neither Kayust or Calvin Phillips, he's not described them as overly serious, so maybe they might feature. I'm not sure both will, but if one of them is fit, I would have both of them in. But I've gone for the reserve backup of Morsey and Taylor because I've assumed they're both going to be unavailable. I would bring Ben Johnson in on the right-hand side, as we tend to do in these away games. I would then have Hutchinson in the 10 and give Jack Clark another game. He got his assist at the weekend. I kind of thought his off-the-ball stuff was pretty good. Obviously, Liam Delap is a no-brainer up front. So, yeah, I guess the big changes are both fullbacks, Tuanzebe and Townsend. The midfield looks like it might well be enforced, and Jaden Philogene dropping out for Ben Johnson just to add a little bit more kind of defensive solidity and maybe just protect the fullback a little bit more, especially if the likes of, as I said, they like to attack down their left-hand side. Fernandez will pop over there. Garnacho might well start as well and figure on that side. And you saw in the graphic how high up Dorgu pushed down Man United's left, so I wouldn't mind maybe that extra bit of defensive solidity down the right.
I guess the question, we're taking a punt on the central midfielders, aren't we? It feels like Calvin Phillips is the more likely to feature, I would guess, because I think there was some real concern with Kayusti's ankle, wasn't there? That being the case, Calvin Phillips is available to start. Who does he play with? Because I don't think he's played with Morsey, has he? So would it be Phillips and Taylor if he's available to you? Or?
That's what I would go for. Yeah, we kind of, was it after the Wolves game when Kayust or somebody, Jack Taylor might have said in the interview, we kind of have, it's Morsey and Phillips for one side and it's Kayust and Taylor for the other side. And obviously when Kayust went off on Saturday, it was Taylor that came on, not Morsey. So that appears to be the setup. So yeah, if Calvin Phillips is good to go, I'd have Morsey on the bench again and I'd have Jack Taylor in alongside him. But hopefully they can both play, because I thought, there there were positives to take from Spurs, and the central midfield was probably the biggest one. I thought they were excellent, and it'll be gutting if Calvin Phillips is just getting back to this kind of player we thought we were getting in August time, and an injury keeps him out again. So fingers crossed they both make a recovery and can play on Wednesday night at Old Trafford.
Agreed. Yeah, and interesting to get your thoughts in the comments, or come and join us on Telegram and get involved in the debate as well. Certainly that left back slot, probably a bold choice by Seb. I'd be surprised if McKenna goes with that, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to ask the questions and play devil's advocate. But I can see the logic in it, Seb. And otherwise, I like your lineup, and happy to see Jack Clark feature again because I think he deserves a run in the team. So yeah, all in all, endorse that, and we'll see what happens in reality on Wednesday night. Dare we say predictions? There's no Panini stickers with me. I've decided to abandon that. Do we want to abandon the predictions feature as well? It's not worked out for us, has it? We've kind of flip-flopped. We've done kind of winky knowing kind of predictions. Maybe we just got to predict it earnestly, even if it's a defeat, and then see what happens rather than doing the winky, you know what I mean? Or do you want to skip it?
No, let's do it. Let's keep it going. They don't draw many at Old Trafford,
No.
so I can't see it being a draw. I will go. We deserve a fun day, don't we? So I'll be the positive one of always. I will go for a 1-0 Ipswich Town win.
That'd be fun
at Manchester United. Well, it will be at full time, yeah.
Oh,
I'll go for a 1-0 win at Manchester United, and it'll be one of those memorable days that we'll look back at the season and say, oh yeah, do you remember Spurs? Do you remember Chelsea? Do you remember United? They were half decent. So yeah, 1-0 to Ipswich.
Yeah, 40-year anniversary of the last victory there, pretty much, isn't it? I'm going to go for, I think both teams would quite happily take a point. So I'm going to predict a crappy 1-1 draw, which is of no use really to us and probably no use to Man United either, but it stops the rot, doesn't it? So I'm going to go for that one. Apologies, Town fans travelling up there if I've cursed that one, but it feels inevitable for me. I'm not sure there's masses of goals in it for either team.
No.
And certainly our central midfield conundrum or concerns means that actually a point at Old Trafford isn't that bad. And I think we also need to reflect and be humble about the state of affairs for our club, let alone Man United's at the moment. So we hope for better. We'll wait and see what happens. Either way, the guys will talk about it either on Wednesday night, we hope, or later in the week. We'll keep you posted, as we say, for the running order for the rest of the week in terms of Forest and FA Cup. I think I need to sign off, don't I, this week? Are we continuing with that? It's not really.
Yeah, you can take us out because obviously we got.
I'll do that.
So my tenure is over.
So do let us know you're out there as well. We always appreciate when people let us know they're listening, especially if you're travelling up to Manchester. Hopefully this mini pre-match show that's filled, it's got you to most of the way to Bury St Edmunds and then beyond if you've left from Ipswich and press play at the start. I will say thank you to Seb. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. Seb, any last words from you before we say goodbye?
No, enjoy it. Old Trafford is still a quality day out, a quality away day. It's not the stadium it was, it's not the side it was, but it is still one of the greats of English football. So a bit like Anfield, enjoy it, and you never know what can happen in football.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you in Manchester. And come on, you Blues!